obvious joke. It's so funny. She's 10 though, so you're 40. I expect better.
No, I'm not 40. I'm just 10 4 times. So
the jokes are 4 times as bad. Fair. So in any event, we do this every Tuesday, and again, the idea is to just you got to get a good sense of who we are, what we're about. Many of you are probably going through the Millionaire Mindset immersion, so you get a little bit of us there. Just so you know, like, we keep doing our work every single day. So some of you guys will probably notice as you're going through that training that the guy in Elon that you see here might be slightly different. And that is because we do the work. Like, we show up every single day. I was just telling someone the other day on a call with them that the beauty that COVID provided Guy and I, we ended up taking a sabbatical, and we spent 6 weeks just meditating, doing body healing, doing sits together, doing sits in group, doing our practices. And that moment, it became very clear to us what our work is and what Satori Prime is. Because for a long time, if you ask Guy and I what we do for work, we would tell you everything that we do with Satori Prime, like that was work. Today, we are very clear that our work is our spiritual work. That's it. That's the only work that we do.
Our personal liberation and self-realization.
Yeah. All this stuff, honestly, is us being able to self-express and share creatively our journey. And Wayne Dyer actually came up a few times at our event. And I was actually thinking, I didn't say this at the event, but I was actually thinking this, that, the reason I loved Wayne Dyer so much was because I got to see how different he was, Wayne Dyer in like 70s, 80s, 90s, to the Wayne Dyer, later on in the years in like the 2020, like 2019, whatever, 2010s. And then, so it was cool because I felt like he kind of took us on that ride with him. And, some of the things that he shared 30 years prior, he would have said something totally different had he been, his future self. And I think there's something really profoundly beautiful to that, you're when you kind of plug into this community, you're watching our evolution and the work working in a way that will hopefully inspire you to realize that, like, this is what happens when you show up every single day. And I was just reminded of this lately because one of my dear friends, they're having like relationship issues. And every time I see someone in my life that is struggling, either like, mental health or relationship health or just physical health, I really pause, and I'm just left with such gratitude for what I have chosen to invest my time, my energy, and my resources into.
Here.
And I was actually like showering today, and I wanted to make this video. And I was in the shower. I was like, I really want to make this video, and I haven't yet. And the idea that came through was, like, people are out there buying top of the line phones and TVs and cars and bags with certain labels on them and shoes with certain labels on them and clothes with certain labels on them, all in an effort to make themselves feel good or make them feel like they matter or belong or show everyone else that they're winning or that they're important. And like, none of that shit makes a fucking difference. None of it. Like, you buy that big shiny car. You're like, oh, I'm going to drive and everyone's going to look at me and see how important I am. And then like a week later, you're like, yeah, what's next? Right. Or like you go buy that bag or that pair of shoes because like, I want to show to everyone that I'm successful and this and that. I'm like, but you still feel empty. And you still feel like I'm this no good, like, little crap. And so we like try to put all this stuff on top of us. And I was like, one of the things I'm so proud of is Guy and I put our money where our mouth is. Over $1 million we have spent on our teachers, experiences, things that we do. Cause like, and now when I look out there and I see all these people like struggle with certain areas of life, I'm not saying that Guy's and I's lives are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I really don't want you to hear it that way. We have like tools and resources. So when things are like wibbly wobbly, it's like programmed in here. Like the thing just kind of takes care of itself because it just knows it's been so practiced to do certain things. And I just feel really grateful that we found it very, very young, fell in love with it right away. And like, this has become our passion and our mission is to give this to others. So when we spent the weekend and like, I can see how us sharing is impacting others. And I know that the ripples that's going to create right in the future is just really exciting for me. And so I just want you guys to honor yourselves because look, it's Tuesday, 2 p.m. for me. I don't know what time it is where you are in the world. And like you're choosing
11 where I am, in case you're wondering.
11. Beautiful. So like you're choosing this time, like you're investing your energy and your time at this moment in you. And there aren't many people out in the world doing that right now.
Yeah.
There's some people that are drinking their sorrows away or popping pills or smoking or doing whatever it is to numb themselves from what's happening inside. And you're spending time here to go inwards and actually get more in tune with what's happening inside. And I think that's the greatest gift that you could ever give to yourself. And our accountants will argue with that because every time they see how much money we spend from our earnings into they're like, are you sure this is okay? I'm like, yeah. This is what we do.
Into programs, into teachings.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want you guys to get like how hopefully you feel gratitude and maybe you're not where you want to be. Right. And that's fine. You're here though. So like something brought you here and maybe you're still uncovering that. Right. Like, and that's okay. But whatever you put out as an intention, had you find this community, these teachings at this place in your life, I wish I found this stuff, early on in my days, but it took Guy and I over 15 years till we got to kind of the stuff that we're at today. So yeah, I would just love for you guys to like give yourselves a pat on the back. I know we like beat ourselves up for never being good enough or smart enough or fast enough or this enough, but like if you're here, it says a lot about you.
That's awesome. Veronique saying, I just arrived in south of France. Take me with you for my summer vacation, and I'm here. Are you in Saint Raphael by any chance? Where are you? I drove that coastline. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, to Elon's point, we're all a work in progress, right? So I'd love to just hear from you guys in the chat box, like, what's alive? What's real? What's up, Kareem? Nice to see you here too.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. What's like alive and real for you right now? Like, where's the focus right now, whether it's on a struggle that you're trying to resolve or whether it's just an area of life that, you're ready for the next step. You're ready for some kind of upgrade. Like what is it that you guys are working on? I put a poll in there because I'm curious, but then everyone puts all the above because everybody wants all those things. I know, but what's the area that's really like, it's got some juice right now for you? So I'm just curious if you guys can say in the chat box. And then, just kind of look at currently in your life, you got to be real about this. Are you being a victim to those circumstances? Have you been trying to work on that for a long time? Have you been a martyr of it? Like, you kind of have to assess yourself and be like, okay, what's the honest truth? Have I just kind of been getting dragged around, letting it happen? Have I been beating myself up inside? Am I like relentlessly working on trying to resolve this? Like what's my deal? What's my level of commitment with this thing? Yeah. So, I'll just read some that are coming through.
So beautiful. Yeah. And thank you guys for being honest.
For honesty. Yeah. Christopher, I love that. Being a better father and provider, the ultimate. Christopher, hell yeah.
By the way, just so you guys know, like a lot of people think that, Guy and I invest this much money because we want to be better coaches or this and that. Like honestly, it's kind of the byproduct of it. But like if you were to ask Guy and I like number one priority in life, both of us would probably say unequivocally to be the best father and husband that we can. To be
Yeah.
able to like show up for our families in the way that we want to, which trust me, many, many, many times we are not showing up that way.
Yeah.
But like this is why we invest in ourselves. This is why I wake up every day and I meditate and I do my practices, because to me, like what I can pass down into my family and like what we get to create together that's number one.
Beautiful. I agree. So take whatever you wrote in the chat box, if you wrote, and if you didn't, that's okay too. Sometimes our best strategy is to hide, right? And like not be seen. And if you're the type of person that hides and doesn't like to be seen, I'm going to go ahead and just offer too that, that might be a strong desire of yours, is to come out of that shell and be able to be somebody who self-express and connect with people, right? And I really understand from personal experience how scary human beings can be, or at least we have the sense that they are. And there's a lot of anxiety and fear over connection. So just again, it's not for us, it's more for yourself. You're behind the computer over there. You get to be honest with yourself. But for just a moment, with whatever you just shared, like whenever we focus on stuff in our life, it ultimately kicks up an experience within us. Okay. Oftentimes these experiences are very subtle. And so we start talking about our problems, but when people talk about, no one really has a problem. I know it seems like they do, but it's more, self-generated, story-based, limbic responses, this kind of thing. And they'll say, here's what I'm dealing with. And then they'll barely take a breath and they'll go on to the next thing. And they'll keep talking about something. And when they do that, they don't honor what they just said, like Joy said, forgiving myself. Powerful. If you just take a moment, Joy, and for everybody else, just like pause for a moment, reflect on what you wrote for just a split second. And I'm going to invite you to drop awareness down and away from the head and just come into your center channel. Like center channel means like where the spinal cord is, from kind of the top of the throat here all the way down towards the root. And I would investigate areas like your stomach, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat. And I want to remind you that these things are not two-dimensional objects. They have a front and a back and an inside and outside, a top and a bottom. And you can like kind of zoom in and zoom out with your awareness. It might be helpful to close your eyes. And I want you to see if you can locate a point of tension in your body, in that center channel specifically. Maybe it feels like your throat is closing up, or the front of your heart feels like it's tight, or the solar plexus feels like it's being squeezed, or maybe it's a poke or a prod or anything like that. And if you're finding some point of tension, if you could just give me feedback, just put yes in the chat box, like I found it. And I'm going to ask you for just a moment here to release and let go of any explanation or story you have about this sensation. So you guys all just gave me like a little excerpt, right, about what's going on. And I'm sure there's a story and a description you can give me about why you believe that's happening. Let's just take into consideration that the story you would tell me if we were together is based on respectfully, I'm saying this respectfully, based on your conditioning and the way that you perceive the world. And so that's shaping the story that you've generated around this to the best of your effort to try to explain to yourself what is going on. So if we can just like take all that, like if you imagine if there's all this content here in front of you and you just take all that and you're like, whoop, and you put it on the, on the shelf, like this figurative shelf over there. So it's like, it's never too far, but we're just not going to deal with that right now. Okay. So take this on the shelf, put it in a little energetic box. I'm not asking you to compartmentalize. I'm not asking you to hold it down. I'm just asking you to notice it, but then not play with it. Like don't merge with it, don't meddle with it, just like leave it alone. Like even if it's a matter of fact that's what's happening, just it's over there for right now, and just kind of see if you can bring yourself more to like an empty space. Even if the mind is chatty, being in an empty space does not necessarily mean not having a chatty mind. Okay. And again, just with all that, just now coming back towards the body where you felt the sensations. Some of you guys are saying, yeah, throat, tummy, chest. And if you have like a few, by the way, if you have three, I would just use your intuition and guidance and just find the one that feels like the most discomfort or the most tightness. And I'm just going to invite you for a moment to sit with that. And it's not so you can be uncomfortable, by the way. I want to give a practice for you guys of what it's like to begin to honor your experience and your system as it is. Not trying to change reality. Not trying to change the story. Not trying to fix, not trying to cajole, not trying to be any other way than as you are in this moment with whatever sensations are in your body, even if it's very subtle. I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness to it. And then if you can, just notice right now if you're applying any effort to finding this thing or trying to change it in any way, and see if you could drop the effort. The dropping effort altogether, just kind of objectively observing with like, interesting, right? Like this kind of, interesting curiosity about this part. Yeah, Jeanette's saying she feels a cold sensation in her stomach. Absolutely, it could be that. Any sensation. However it is that your system feels it, might be hot, might be cold, might feel tight, might feel compressed, might feel squeezed. It could be anything at all, just since you're looking for some sort of discomfort and sensation. And so what we're looking at here in your system is what is correlating to the story, right? What's underneath the story, what's much deeper, is that there is this discomfort in the system. Even if it's very subtle, there's discomfort there. And what you're noticing, hopefully, is that this is actually the source of the discomfort. And then the mind steps in and creates a story and tries to explain what is happening. But the mind is just doing its best to try to figure out what story is going to make this part feel safe. It's like a parent coming to a child who's upset and telling them a story that's going to give them a version of reality that's easier to swallow. But the reality is still happening. And so the reality is the sensation in your body, and this is the direct experience that you're having. And I want to offer to not run away from your direct experience, because this is what keeps you in the loop. This is why you don't liberate. It's why you don't feel free, is that you're not being with what's so, you're just dealing with the story in your mind.
Or this is like the thing that you're trying to numb. So this is what I was talking about. Like when I look around, this is the thing that the mind does not want you to experience.
Yeah.
And so whatever your coping mechanisms are, and they could be eating, drinking, pills, smoking, running, sex. For some of us, it's like, even like, I'm just going to go and take a walk, or I'm going to go read. Like there might not be like terrible unhealthy habits, and there's still coping mechanisms, right? It's like, ever see people that like can't sit still, right? And so they're like always moving around, like doing something. Yeah, guy's one of them. Always doing, like he's doing that not because he's wanting to do that. There's just like a unease in the system, and as long as it's moving, right, it's like you're not fully going and having that experience. So whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, like this is the thing that runs your entire life.
Yeah. This is probably the most of what is real about what is happening, is that there is a stimulus in your environment, sometimes created by the mind, right? Just a thought can create stimulus, but we know the thought forms generate energy. And so like you're made out of energy. So any energy that's touching your energy, so to speak, is going to have an impact on your energetic field, on your energetic makeup, on your energetic configuration and constellation. And so like a lot of this work is about finding stability so that the system can reorganize in its own pacing. The way that we do this is by beginning to honor what our system is actually doing, not running from it. So again, like coming back to the part, Elon got a little heady there for a second, but I want you to be in your experience. So if you kind of pop back up to your head, again, just coming back down towards the body. And like, again, imagine you're the best parent on planet Earth, and you're both the mom and the dad in the situation, right? So you play both roles, and you're going to come down to this part, this frozen, upset part. And if you were a parent and your child was upset, you're not going to yell at them. I mean, people do, but it's not great parenting, right? It's like you want to honor that the child is upset. So like there's a part of you right now that's having a response. So see for a moment what it's like if you approach it with this energy of like honoring its experience all the way through. So if it's like really tight, if it's really scared, if it's really hurt, if it's really uncomfortable, like you're approaching it with this open curiosity and awareness, and you're going to begin with not like, how do I get rid of you? But instead, like, I'm going to honor fully that you're having this experience. Just check that out for a moment, okay? We see you, Diane, by the way. And Diane, if we are going to bring you out, I'd love to just get some context for what you want to chat about, so I know that it's just in alignment with what we want to chat about here too. So we're not going off on some tangent. Yeah, we want to learn as a human family, as a society, how to stop coping and managing. You guys are, tell me in the chat box, are you a great coper? Are you great at managing? I'm gonna go out here on a limb and just say you are a professional sufferer. And I only say that from a place of love because I'm a professional sufferer. That I don't need to learn how to do. I know how to suffer. How many of you guys know that you're a professional sufferer? Okay, no worries. Thank you for giving me that feedback. Oh, there's two different Dianes. No. Yeah. So just check it out. And like, look, part of being in community is our ability to be honest with one another. So we know that we are not relegated to having some shitty experience or a suffering experience, and that we're all on our own. Check this out. It would be easier to ask who's not a professional sufferer, And I just want to say again, not by anyone's fault that we are operating this way. It is just, it's not that this is human nature. This is currently human conditioning. We don't need to suffer. We're just currently choosing suffering as a teacher. And suffering is a great teacher. And just maybe again, going on a limb here, it doesn't have to be the only way that we learn. We do have to unbind ourselves from a lot of the suffering that we have caused, though, to ourselves, for ourselves, both at the level of society and both interpersonally and both within our own self with our own judgments and guilts. Yeah. Great question. Kareem's asking, what's a sufferer's pay rate? Yeah, if we all got paid for suffering, we'd all be freaking billionaires.
Billionaires.
Yeah. If I had a quota for every time I suffered, I'd have a lot of quotas. So what I wanted, this little bit, like how many of you guys have our meditations? Anybody in MMI should have our meditations. Oh, maybe not actually. But how many of you guys are practicing those meditations? And the reason for those meditations is it's a practice in playing in a territory without having the maps. Okay, I'll say that again. It's a process of learning how to play in the territory, in any territory, without being given a map first, which is kind of how life works, by the way. Life is all about territory. The maps come later, right? Because how do we get maps? Contrast. We learn through contrast. We suffer here. I don't want to suffer like that anymore. We get in this relationship. I don't want that kind of relationship anymore. And it's that contrast that helps us kind of like mediate and find it. So we want to understand that learning is contrast, and it's an important part of life. And you're gonna continue to have a life filled with contrast. It is never going to go one way. It's never going to be one thing. It's never going to be clean all the time. It's never going to be perfect. And that's why Len and I are really honest to tell you, like, we've done this work for a long time. We've helped thousands, tens of thousands of people through work like this. We are far from pious. It is far from perfect. We mess up all the time. It's just life. It would be ridiculous to tell you otherwise. We don't want to be on any platform or any pedestal. If there's any difference between us and you, it's we've probably been committed to our practice potentially longer than you. Can't even say that for a fact. Some of you guys have been in practice for a very, very long time. And for whatever reason, we have an inclination to share what we've learned. And we seem to have a way to take some pretty advanced esoteric stuff and speak about it in fairly practical ways so that you guys understand. Not just, oh, okay, let's meditate, go into higher states of consciousness. It's like, why do that? What is the practical application of going into higher states of consciousness? Well, it's healing in nature. Your body's technology activates when you go into a restful, silent space. And when you bring awareness to a certain quality, there is a biological response in the body. And that response is what science calls healing. But really all we're doing is we're helping the body metabolize energy. I say this every time, but it's always worth saying for new people. Trauma is basically stuck frozen energy in the body. If you want to quiet your mind down, if you want to quiet the concerns down that you have, it's a pretty simple thing. You need to get into practices that enable you to cultivate more safety in your system, more resource in your system, more alignment, and healthy, safe connection with other people. If you can do those things, and this is what we do and how we train people and to do all the practices that we do, when you do those things, you re-inform your nervous system how to operate through the mirrored reflection of another energetic body. So sometimes, like, right, anybody who's been in a relationship, sometimes like one partner goes off the keel and another person's like super stable, and that partner that's stable, don't they help you find stability again if you're kind of conscious and aware of doing this? And then like the other one will go off and then like, shit, I'm really scared. And this one will kind of be like, don't worry, sweetheart, I got you. And then like you find that ground again. We can start doing this very consciously and start realizing this is how a human being learns. We are mirroring our environment. That's how we learn internally. And today we know that you have 40,000 specialized mirror neurons in your heart. We know the same thing about your stomach. This tells us that your heart and your stomach have a way of thinking, just like your mind does. And that makes a lot of sense because it's like the whole nervous system is like one mind, thinking, feeling, expressing. And so the way that we can heal and offer you guys one of the practices that we do in our live weekends and certainly in our more advanced work is how we sit with other people to mirror a healthy nervous system when we are totally disoriented, under-resourced, out of alignment. And this is one of the ways that we can retrain a nervous system to start operating in really, really healthy ways. Okay. But the first thing we got to do is this little glimpse taster that we just did here, which is you have a concern, stop dealing with the concern. Stop trying to articulate the problem through logic. And you can try if you want, by the way. Don't take my word for it. Do that till you are blue in the face, till you are absolutely certain that you've tried every goddamn thing in the world and it's still not solving the problem. And if you are exhausted, like I am, by doing that and the mental exercise and the stress that creates, then I'm telling you, you will not resolve a goddamn thing in your life doing that. Because what you don't see when you're doing that is that under all of that, under all the logic and all that stuff is your body having an experience. And that body is emanating a certain frequency and vibration. That vibration and frequency is like informing a reality, which we call an organic hologram, and it's mirroring that frequency. And so if that frequency is scarcity, then the mirror mirrors back to you scarcity. If it's fear that you see, right? And then that's what people try to do. They try to create laws and organizations and stuff like that to like protect themselves, or they take pills or drugs to protect themselves. It's too fucking scary what's in the mirror. I don't want to look, so I avoid. And the truth is, none of us will get free or liberated from that place. We will literally stick ourselves in a loop, kind of like a funhouse mirror, where all we see is the very thing that we don't want to see. And so I'm telling you that one of the first steps that you can take is opening your awareness and coming down to the part in the system and realizing the truth that the mind is responding to this tightness, and it's responding the best way it knows how from the way that it's been conditioned. It's the only way it can respond. It's a knee-jerk response. It's autonomic. Most of our lives is lived in complete automation, and thank God, or this world would be too much for our little brains to handle.
Yeah.
But if you want to change that, you got to go in and you got to notice that, because what's between you and your freedom and liberation is your ability to be with it and just go through that discomfort and let it move through the system in its own time and pacing. That's what this whole work is about. It's about how do we sit and how do we get support systems around us that enable that. Even our clients who we support for many years, sometimes are surprised by how much support Elon and I get. We probably get more support than they do. It's the reason we have so much stability in our systems. It's the reason that we can face life's challenges in a really different way. It doesn't mean that life has stopped coming. Life is, if anything, amplifying itself around Elon and myself. And the experiences are scarier today than they were 15 or 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago. The only difference is that we have built a capacity and a container that can hold charge that is coming through our system. And so we don't collapse into our conditioning and parts quite as often as we used to. And so we sit in stability and alignment with connection with ourselves and other people. And all this stuff is how we've navigated this stuff and quote unquote healed our systems to such a degree that it's opening up aspects of reality and life to us in ways that were completely unimaginable to us 5 or even 7 years ago, right? Anything you want to share about this?
No, keep going.
No, so that's really it. So I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. What can you kind of harvest? What did you notice in that little bit? Like, what did you notice when you dropped down? Did something about your experience shift? And maybe it was even a little bit of a relief to not have to like deal with it mentally. And I understand that sometimes just going down to a part can bring up like an extraordinary amount of sadness or grief or anger or confusion or frustration. And like, here's the thing. If when you touch that part, when you brought awareness to that part, that's what came forward, then the next layer is to be with that confusion, to be with that frustration, to be with that fear, to be with that sadness. And so like the healing meditations, the active healing meditations are a practice in how to sit with parts within you. That's what it's for. When you sit with parts and they don't let go, that means that your system doesn't have data yet on how to hold and let go of that charge. Okay. This is why working with other people and sitting with them and co-regulating, this shit may not mean anything to you, but it means a lot to us, is a way to repair that, because it gives your nervous system and your body new information on how to be with that experience in a really healthy, grounded, safe way. And this is what healing begins to look like. So here, I just want to read. Sasha said his tension dissipated. Jeanette said it was strange. Yes, for a lot of people, this is strange because it's new and a different way of being with things. Alicia says, my mind right away labeled the heaviness in my heart as anxiety. Good noticing. Randia says, I'm so sad. I don't want to be sad anymore. Yeah, and I was tracking you a lot this weekend, so I saw what's going on. And I think, Randia, you're a therapist, right? Which, again, not a surprise. Like we all do the thing, right? We're all really good at the thing that we're trying to heal within ourselves. So yeah, there's a loop of what's wrong with you. And again, just notice other, like noticing other people through your awareness and their experience, and like kind of like honoring that that's their experience, not trying to save them, not trying to fix them. There's nothing wrong with these people. There's nothing wrong with any of us. Okay. There's only the conditioning that we're stuck in. There's a limbic response. It's looping, fight or flight. Like, it's nobody's fault that you got here where you are. That's just a makeup of the conditioning, society, school, parents, right? All that kind of stuff. Oh, not therapist, but should have been. Yeah. And at the same time, if there's an access point to repairing that, and that's what you're committed to, then it's absolutely your responsibility to go and figure out how to do that. And the technology is here, has always been here, and has been taught on this planet for a very, very long time. This is not, the stuff that Elon and I teach these days is as ancient gets.
Diane's saying, I completely agree with your philosophy, sitting with the part that needs healed. Would you say this works in the same way with physical illness? Which is a great question. I'm going to kind of answer it with a question. And that question is, do you believe, and this is for all of you, do you believe that the physical ailments of our physical body have to do with stuck energy, trauma, things that we've been holding on to for a long time? Some people hold sadness or grief. A lot of people just bury stuff. We were talking about that a lot this weekend, like just burying things, right? And so again, my 2 cents on it is I'm a big believer, mostly because I've seen it in my life and the lives of our clients time and time again, to the point where it literally like blows my mind. I believe that, and Wayne Dyer again talked about this. It's not disease. It's dis-ease, right? So like when your system internally is in dis-ease, like there's no ease and flow in the system, then it's going to create physical ailments. And the body communicates with us in a way always, like it's always trying to communicate with us. But think about the only time you ever pay attention to the body is when the body's in pain, right? Like until you have a headache, you didn't even know that you have a head. Until you stub your toe, you didn't even know that the toe exists there. Like you're not aware of these things. And so I'm a big believer that all the things that operate in our body are a function of what is happening deep, deep inside. And our body, the thing with like the human body, it is an incredibly resilient and adaptable tool. Like how many people do you know that abuse their body? And I'm talking like food abuse and alcohol abuse and not moving their body and not working out and like popping pills and doing all these things. They're still here. Body's like, all right, I will deal with this and flush it and da-da-da, right? Like this body is incredibly resilient. And what I have seen, some of the teachers that we work with are, 60s, 70s years old. And like, they're some of the most alive, vibrant, fit people. Why? Because they've been doing this work for 30 years. Right. And so that's my take. I have seen miracle after miracle after miracle. I've seen people that weren't able to move their necks release some emotional trauma and all of a sudden have movement. I've seen people that had dead arms, like arms that wouldn't move, release something and all of a sudden get mobility back. Like it is incredible how it's all intertwined. So
we had a woman recently who said that she was experiencing 40 years of epilepsy. And within 11 days of doing the meditation practices, it stopped for the first time.
Yeah. And she's tried a lot of different things.
Yeah, she's tried obviously for a very long time. So those things are surprising to us too. I remember I sat in a 10-day silent meditation years ago, and a strong realization I had at that time, hey JJ, is that like most diseases, I would argue, I don't want to say all of them, but most of them are psychosomatic in nature, right? It's tied to, again, like you have to get the system is sitting in tension. That's the thing, like you're a child, there's stimulus, hits the body, it's too much, right? It's just too much. You guys all know that, like heartbreak, or it's too much stress for a child. And that's what happens. To protect itself, the body freezes it and tries to like manage it. So it's not like flowing everywhere. It's like just too much charge for the body. They say that if that charge actually hit the system full out and the system didn't do that, we would die. And I like to use this example because we can all kind of relate to it. You all have been to the doctor or played, with your knee at some point in time where you like hit the kneecap, right underneath the kneecap, and the knee and the leg kind of flies up uncontrollably. It's kind of cool because you're like, look at that go. And what I didn't realize is the reason that happens is because the body has an intelligence. There's a very soft piece of tissue right under the kneecap that very easily breaks with contact, very easily. Like, so if the knee was hit that way and it didn't pop up, that piece of tissue would actually tear or rip completely. And so in order to protect itself, the body automatically pushes the leg up. Okay. I don't know if you guys know this, when you get an injury and it's like, if everything swells and it's hard to move, it's not just it's trying to send blood flow over there. It's actually trying to freeze your ability to get full range of motion. Because if you were to use full range of motion, you would further injure that part of your body. And so this is literally how the body protects itself. It freezes the part. Such as above, so is below, right? So it's like, what happens in the body? It freezes the part to protect it. But the problem is that then it doesn't let go because of what our mind begins to do with it, and because of the training that we get of what is okay and not okay in this world. And so our mind starts creating these amalgamations and distortions that says it's not okay to feel that. It's not okay to express that. It's not okay to, you guys fill in the blanks. Your childhood is probably flashing before your eyes, right?
Mhm.
And so, but that's what we've all learned. And because of that, our biology, our divine intelligence is not doing the work of releasing this tension in the body. And we grow into adults as a body that's really holding more and more tension. You guys probably all know that person around 30, 40 years old who seems perfectly fine, healthy, and stable. And then suddenly they're having panic attacks. And they're like, what is going on? Or like, this ailment comes out of nowhere. It's not coming out of nowhere. It's 30 years of like plaque buildup in their system that now is beginning to express because we can't see what's inside. But you guys know if you get like an infection on the surface, or you get like ringworm or whatever it might be, if it's on the surface, that can only like what's going on internally is way worse than what's on the surface. That means it's sprouting on the surface, so the growth has already happened underneath, right? Like even when we see like a little flower on the surface, there's a whole root system underneath that, right? Same thing within our bodies. And so it's like everyone's like dealing with the flower on top. Oh, here are my thoughts, here are my this, here are my that. And it's like, why am I still thinking this way? I've been doing this for so long. I've got an awareness on it. Blah, 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 right? I've done so much work. I'm aware of it. Yeah, you're aware of it, but you're not looking at the thing that matters, which is the system that's underneath. It hasn't let go at all. Those roots are still very much in there. And so the brain patterns continue to do, rightfully so, to try to protect that part. And that's why today we began this practice of there's tension there. Okay, we'll honor it. Start with honoring it. Stop trying to fix it. Stop trying to make it go away. Our bodies, our consciousness does not work when we have an agenda. This healing does not work with an agenda. Healing is an agendaless practice. Let me say that again. Healing is an agendaless practice. Healing is about surrendering and allowing. What is here right now, can we permission, surrender, and allow that? And most of us we have concepts of what surrendering means. We have very little practice in doing that in our lives. And so meditation is a way to objectively observe and surrender to what's happening. It's not what people think it is, which is let me control my thoughts and quiet myself down, which is more of what it isn't, by the way. That's why meditation doesn't work for people, why they find it so difficult, because they use it as another mechanism to try to control themselves.
Yeah.
Instead of a mechanism for allowing the body to do what it intelligently does, which is heal itself. And the body is always, moment by moment, second by second, nanosecond by nanosecond, offering you healing. It's the reason why somebody can be obese for 30, 40 years or drink for 30 and 40 years, and the body will be okay. They'll keep running, all right? Maybe not optimally, but the body will keep going for a long time before it starts showing stuff to show up. That's how resilient this machine is.
Yeah.
So what happens when you stop giving it those stressors and you just let it do what it's supposed to do, right? Like if you have an unhealthy liver, you need to stop drinking. You need to stop putting that stimulus in there to hurt your liver, and the liver will repair itself over time. If you're a smoker, you stop smoking, the lungs will repair themselves over time, right? Like, but if you keep doing the stimulus, how can you expect it to heal itself?
Yeah.
And so we need to understand that's what's happening with our thoughts. That's what's happening with our emotions. Yeah, no, Megan, just to be clear, I'm saying that's how people use meditation to try to control themselves. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's the exact opposite. I'm not saying control yourself. I'm saying observe yourself. Surrender to your experience and watch. And then the flow can return to the body because the body is constrained by your ideas of what's supposed to be happening. It's like you're constantly causing tension in your body by telling yourself that it's not working the way you want it to. None of us get, if you're fat, you don't go, well, stop being fat, fatty, and like then you get, skinny by doing that. You're creating so much tension in the body. The body's like, I'm sorry, what do you want from me? It's like you're confusing it. But if you like relaxed into it, something else would happen. We've had, plenty of people have like these amazing breakthroughs in their health. Not because we were working on their health at all. We just create more stability, alignment, and safety in the system. And then the weight comes off because the weight was an amalgamation of a defense pattern to defend something that didn't feel safe. Guys, this is what this work is about. If you're not already in any of our MMI programs, that's Millionaire Mindset Immersion or Prime Your Abundance, that's the best place to get started with this work. And we would recommend doing all those. We also recommend coming to the live event. Like we just held our live event this weekend, biggest event we've had to date. in my opinion, best event we've had today. Just freaking magical on every level. We can talk to you about this, but we're blue in the face. Forget the explanations. Forget the math. Come have an experience.
That's right.
This work is a direct experience, only taught through direct experience. So MMI and Prime Your Abundance, those are really hallmark foundational things that everyone gets to learn in order to step into this energetic work, which is why we offer them first. And then of course we have, work that you can do with us long-term and much more intimate, and like we take it into the advanced. But again, like the way that we see things is through how Robert Greene explains it, which is you got to start as a student. Everyone starts as a student. There's no skipping these patterns. Okay. You become a student. You're a student long enough, you become a practitioner. You're a practitioner long enough, you become a master. So you got to pick for yourself. Am I a practitioner? Am I a student? Or do I want mastery? Okay. So we've designed these programs now. So MMI, Prime Your Abundance, this is for the, and again, even if you're in later study, this might be a very different way of looking at things, because we've had many people go through it now that are like, this is still amazing, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone explains things in their own way. Elin and I have been in this practice for 20 years. We've discovered a few things, but it's like, we're taking you through those steps from going from being a student to becoming a practitioner. And ultimately, for those of you guys who want to master this stuff, that's what the Awareness Effect Academy is for. And you get to choose your level of participation at any time, or how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole. And we can tell you, like, what we're sharing with you right now is key, right? Like in comparison to how deep this rabbit hole really goes, because when you start exploring consciousness and energy, it's an unlimited field. And that's what makes it wildly exciting, is that it's constantly evolving and unfolding. Even in Elin's and mine experience, like we've been doing this aspect of work now for 7 years, which is right around the time I would say you start considering yourself to be in some state of mastery with it. And to us, it feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, every day, just like, oh, this is new.
Like, what's arising in our life right now and in our business right now is so new and magical that it's always like, whoa, like that's happening. And so the reason we're always so excited about this aspect of work is different than mindset work, which is like, there's only so much insight you can gain about yourself. And then you're like, you get really excited about gaining that insight. And then it just kind of plateaus and you make like incremental changes in your life. But like, I'm not putting down mindset work. It's so powerful. If you want to increase your performance, you want to have better relationships, you want to be able to act in the face of fear, you want to know how to repair things, take responsibility for things, like it's going to change your life. I guarantee it. Within a few days, by the way, you're going to see big changes. And then if you really want to go deep into like not just understanding and managing and coping and performance, but you really want to like heal, you want to liberate from these patterns within you. In our opinion, you can't do that from the mind. You got to go into the body, but these two worlds play together really, really well. And they literally you cannot do one without the other, which is why we teach them this way. So we find that the mindset work is more approachable for most people. And then again, for those of you guys, that's why we do an intuitive mind event. We give you a 2-day big gulp. Here's what it looks like when you're doing this work. You will completely be like, I guarantee you, you've never done anything like this before. Okay. I don't care if you're a practice meditator for 40 years. It's unlikely you've done anything like what we teach at the Intuitive Mind event. And the reason we do that is so that you can have a preview and understand what it is that you're stepping into if you come into the Awareness Academy.
Yeah, like if people that were at the event, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are on here right now, like, and you've done a lot of work over the last few years. If you just want to share anything about your experience of, how it was different and like sitting in that field and energy, it'd be great just to hear that from others. I just want to point to Trina Heyman wrote, "Poverty, I grew up in it. I've always been proud of being a survivor, being able to survive the worst conditions. I think that way of thinking, although positive, is hindering my success in work and life, hence my throat closing up. Would that be a thing?" So I really want to speak to this and whatever. So like, I'm going to use the survivor part in this example. For everyone else that's listening, if you have the survivor part, then great. If you have some other part that you like always shows up, like there are people who are incredible problem solvers, right? So like you have a problem solver part. There are people that have the winning part, like you always win, right? You have to win no matter what. Whatever that part is, here's what I want you to get. In order for something to be useful, or something to like for you to look at something and go, wow, that thing is really great, whatever it is, what needs to happen? It needs to be in use, right? Like you're not reaching into a closet somewhere and finding something that you haven't used in 6 years and going like, wow, that thing is really awesome. No, things that you like, things that you appreciate, things that you value, you use all the time. Now, in order for a survivor part to feel useful, to be acknowledged, what would that survivor part need to do? It would consistently need to find things to what? To survive. So every time you survive these things, you go and you go, we did it again. Yeah, look at us. We survived that thing, right? Or if you problem solve, like you have a problem solver part, what does the problem solver part need? It needs problems. What is the part that always has to win need, right? Games, for it to always be winning. So whatever your part is, I want you to get that it is actually manifesting a very specific reality for you, most of which you don't want, so that it can shine in what it does. Let that just kind of sink in there for a second. The life that you have right now is created by these parts that want to seem useful. And if the life that these parts are creating for you is not what you are wanting, then the only way out of this trap is all the things that I just said will make zero difference in your life. Like you knowing and understanding all of this and me handing you this map, as aha of a moment that this might be for you, you're like, oh my God, that's why. I promise you, knowing this will make zero difference in your life, which I know can be very frustrating. So the first step is really like, yes, that we get to be aware of these parts. But the only way out is starting to go through those parts. Like for someone that needs to survive all the time, right? There are things that are arising in the system that don't feel comfortable, right? Like maybe it's being alone, maybe it's not being good enough, maybe it's not being seen or being successful or whatever it is. Those are like the underneath sad ones that the survivor is out there trying to protect all the time. So until you're dealing with the underneath hurt ones, this survivor part is always going to run the show. And what most people do is they try to deal with the survivor because they're like, oh, I saw this pattern and I do this all the time. So now I'm going to like deal with this. But as long as that thing is underneath, you looking at this part makes no difference because those things are going to keep arising and that survivor part's going to keep acting. It's just, right? Like cause and effect, cause and effect. I was talking to my buddy who, you know, unfortunately has an addiction problem and like, you know, he's obviously dealing with a lot of trauma. And so leaning towards alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, right? Like as we were discussing here, that's always going to show up. So like the addiction is it's not the problem. The addiction is simply the outcome of what's underneath, like all that undealt with trauma. And this is the only way the body knows how to off gas that. So when people are like, oh, I'm going to deal with I'm going to go to AA and deal with addiction. Yes, that's necessary. Like you need to do that. And the reason people relapse over and over and over and over is because they're not actually going underneath that and realizing that there's some hurt little boy or girl inside that hasn't been met. And as long as that is not met, the addiction, you will just transfer one addiction for another addiction. How many people like stop smoking cigarettes and then start eating food uncontrollably? It needs something, right? And so that's why, like, for us, it's so important knowing this stuff to like share with others and be like, look, if you're looking in the wrong place, that means that you're going to invest a lot of time, energy, and money working on things that are not going to move the needle. And that's why we say, like Guy said, start with the MMI programs, start with PYA, right? Then show up to a live event and like feel what it feels like to actually be held and touch that aspect, so that you can glimpse the release in the body. And then you get to choose like your level of desire to continue on that path. Just give yourself that simple gift and then see what happens.
So you guys know MMI is $49, 16 hours of training. It's incredible. That training is worth thousands of dollars easily, right? And like we had a real goal of like distributing this work to everybody, so you guys get a real taste of it. So that's what's here. PYA again. If once you purchase MMI, it'll show you PYA. It's called Prime Your Abundance. So basically takes this work and focuses it more on wealth and abundance and all that kind of stuff. So it's like get the foundation, and then like obviously money is a real big, thorn in everyone's side. But again, there's a relationship to money. There's a relationship to the energy of support, which is what money really is. And it's like those are the relationships that need mending. If that's an area of life that's really shaky for you, then there's an energetic component there. Like any relationship, when you get into a relationship with a man or a woman, and that repeats over and over again, you keep finding the same man, same woman. It's the same thing with money. You have a relationship with it, and if it keeps repeating, there's stuff around your conditioning. You probably know what that is, and it's why it keeps showing up the same way with the same challenges and same circumstances. So this is the kind of stuff that we can clean, not by working on money, but by cleaning up the distortions in our conditioning around our relationship to it, so that support around money can show, because that's really what money is. It's an energy of support, right?
That's it. Yeah.
So that's what these programs are about, and that's why we take care of the fundamentals. Then we go into the deeper esoterics of healing and energy and all the things that human beings really are. But like we want to take care of the foundational things that you guys can take out into your life today and like apply something and be like, whoa, that's completely changing, right? Like that's why we're giving you the work that gives the quick wins first. And then we go into the depth of the soul of this work, which is like this awareness energetic piece also. So we like to offer both as best as we can. And we've been working for 12 years on these ascensions. So we've tried a lot of different ways, and this is what has absolutely worked the best for people. Okay. Love you guys. Thank you for continuing to show up and do the work. We love watching this community grow. Keep showing up every week. We changed the name of these to Tuesday Tune-Ups, because even if you're in MMI, if you're any of the programs, like come here, like get the energy of the group, get this energy of support, like get this into your bones that it really gets to be this way. But like the reason Elon and I have gotten to where we've gotten to is continued support, continued commitment to work, to showing up, to our practice, to looking what's inside and the discomfort, and like really facing it to liberate ourselves from that stuff. Okay. This community is about to pop. And so like you're in a really beautiful place. We're super excited to be here. We love supporting you. Just so you guys know, the next event is coming up at the end of September. So it's going to come up really fast. It's a much smaller, tighter window. This time it's only about 6 weeks. So like, get on the court and come play with us at the event. It's going to just completely rock our world. We guarantee it. And, then we get to talk about where do we go from there. All right. Love you guys. Broski, if you can do me a favor, I accidentally shut my window down. So you actually have to shut down the webinar today.
Okay. Sounds
top
good.
Top left
Yep.
corner. See ya.
All right, everybody.
All right,
Bye.
Bye, everybody.